Joel from Jonesy's Auto Club here, and in this video series I'm going to show you guys about the latest purchase that I've made at the shop. I decided that it was time to get a little shop truck, and so what I found at a salvage auto auction was a 94 Toyota two-wheel drive 4-cylinder extended cab pickup truck. And you can see that it got punched in the nose. But one of the nice things about trucks of this vintage is this is pre-airbag. Doesn't have any airbags, so we don't have to worry about that. This truck has fairly low miles, 134,000. Clean interior. Hasn't been roached out. It's got air conditioning. No cruise control, but has air conditioning, tilt steering, has a stereo, and it has this really, really beautiful topper that doesn't really fit on the truck, but would actually be pretty useful. It's got the obligatory stickers. This one being my favorite down here. Honeypot. Some other damage besides the front is the side of the truck. Got kind of smashed in, although I do not believe that that was a result of the wreck. Now, kind of going back around the rig. This side looks pretty good. But one nice thing about buying vehicles at the auction like this is that you know exactly why they're at the auction, and you can be pretty certain that it was running when it was wrecked. So this one just basically got punched in the nose above kind of the frame rail, and if you look here, there's a pretty substantial gap underneath this hood. And the hood was buckled right across the middle, which is kind of the way they're designed. That's kind of what they're designed to do. And the driver's side actually lines up pretty well. So if you're going to think about taking on a project like this, what you want to look for is you want to look for something that just kind of has superficial damage. And what I consider superficial is anything that's like tins. You don't want to get into anything that has a lot of structural damage. And you can tell if it's just tins by looking at all of the body gaps. So the hood gap looks pretty good at the cowl. It looks really good on this left fender. This driver's door opens and closes really well. On the passenger side, we can't say the same. It's too tight of a gap at the door there, but the hood still has a pretty good gap at the cowl and has a good gap on the upper portion of the fender. So what kind of happened was that it got hit on the more on the passenger side and then kind of pulled down, and that's pretty typical of trucks like this that are lower than other trucks. So it rear-ended somebody, and the rear-ended somebody that had a bumper that was upper in this area, quite a bit higher than the grill of the truck, and then it kind of got wedged underneath there and then pushed this corner down as seen by the hood. So I'm going to open up the hood and then we'll continue to assess the damage. So under the hood you can see that radiator is actually bent in the opposite direction of what you would kind of expect to see. And the reason why it's bent like that is because it actually wrapped itself around the fan and probably took out the water pump in addition. But this core support, maybe you can get a good perspective on it. There, that's a good shot of how the radiator is bent forward. The whole core support kind of got pushed back, and a lot of that stuff doesn't really line up. And this fender is bulged out quite a bit, and the bumper corner is not rubbing on the tire, but it's really, really close. So to further assess the damage, what I'm going to have to do is just start to disassemble all this front bent up sheet metal and try and get down to the frame rail and try and get down to the core support and see if that's something that we can straighten or if we're going to have to track down another one. If you're going to take on a project like this, it's a good idea to check the local junkyards, suppliers, Craigslist, and see what parts cost and what's available so that you can get some idea of what the superficial parts are going to cost before you even get into paint and bodywork. So my next step is to start to disassemble the front end on this and eliminate all of the bent stuff so I can get down and see if the core support's going to be salvageable or not. So I've been ripping and thrashing and tearing on the front of the Toyota, and came to a good stopping point where I can kind of update everybody on the progress. So you can see I've got the bumper on the ground. The bumper was kind of the first thing that we really needed to take off, because once you get the bumper off, you get access to some hidden bolts on the fender. One of them goes here, the other one goes there, and in order to get the passenger door open to gain access to that bolt, I had to actually slide the fender forward. While I'm over here on the passenger fender, I want to show a special tool that everybody should have if they're going to try and do stuff like this. It's a antenna nut socket, and it fits right down inside there and then allows you to take that special nut off without screwing it up. In the engine compartment, I'll kind of show you some of the stuff that I've taken out. Got the battery out of there. There was the windshield washer reservoir right here. The air intake that goes from here around over to there. Also I've gotten the coolant reservoir removed, as well as the tires, the front tires, the right-hand splash pan. And one nice thing about having a truck is that in the bed you can start stacking all of your parts. And what I generally do is keep everything side specific. So the stuff that's on the driver's side, I put on the driver's side in the bed, and the stuff that's on the passenger side, I put on the passenger side in the bed. When I'm not going to be having the parts be stored for a long time, this is going to kind of be a turn and burn project, I lay out some masking paper on the bench, and then I just label where that pile of bolts came from. And again, I keep everything side specific. So on the passenger side, I've got the windshield washer reservoir, the battery hold down, the lug nuts, the right-hand fender. Kind of universal stuff that's side specific, I just label lower valence, bumper, and then obviously you've got upper radiator hose, the air intake tube, the air cleaner assembly, and then some more of the stuff off of the driver's side. So lay that out and just write on it with a Sharpie what it is. Be as specific as you feel like you need to make that happen. So I'm going to continue thrashing away, digging down a little bit deeper to see if I can save that front core support or not. So I continued to disassemble the Toyota. I took off the AC condenser, the radiator, the fan shroud, and pretty much all of these front components. A couple things that I noticed is that the fan clutch itself is damaged. It's got a really bad rough spot in there, and consequently the water pump is probably damaged as well. So we're going to replace both of those. The core support is now showing a lot of signs of being bent beyond repair. So we're going to go ahead and replace the core support, and I'll walk you through how to do that. But now my main concern is how much did this front frame rail get tweaked out of shape. And a quick, easy way to determine how far it's bent or how off it is to make sure that your tire pressure is even on both sides and you're on a fairly level piece of ground, and then just measure kind of some key locations, like a bumper bolting location. This one measures right at about 16 inches. This side over here, using the same hole, measures about 16.5. So the outside bumper mounting locations are off by about a ½ inch. And if you come kind of inboard a little bit, you can see whether or not it's just the ear on the bumper that's bent or if it's actually the frame rail. So we'll take a measurement right here at this frame rail. And that frame rail measures about 16 5/8, and this one, in approximately the same place, measures about 16 3/8. So it is off by about ½ an inch. General rule of thumb on stuff like this is less than 1/4 is okay. Anything more than 1/4 of an inch, you need to get it actually straightened. So the core supports actually weld in on these Toyotas. They spot weld into the cowl and to the firewall. And so what I'm going to do is, you can see this core support is bent down substantially all the way to about right in here, and you can kind of get a close-up shot and see that this inner fender panel has been crinkled right in there, but it straightens out pretty good right about in this general area. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to use these original holes in there and then down in here to locate the new core support. So I'm going to find those same holes on our new core support. When I say new core support, it's actually a used core support that I bought on Craigslist. We're going to use those to locate it and then cut both of them to match, so that we know that these holes are in the same location on both core supports, and it's far enough away from the damaged section to where we know that this is actually straight. So we're going to do that on both sides and replace this whole front piece. Sounds like it's more work than it's worth, but it's actually really pretty easy and pretty straightforward. These Toyota trucks come apart really easy, and you can get this done pretty quickly.